Hey, welcome to the Clawfee house. I'm Buttons. Today we'll be going over some basic animation in ClipStudio. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, we can begin. We're just gonna grab this one out of a set of animations and we'll mess with it. There's only 2 layers to this. That's the red on the face and the actual sketch. And then let's grab the box. Yeah, I'm gonna grab those 3 things, the box, the sketch, and the red. Edit copy, and we can make a new animation, and we'll just drop that stuff in. We can make it 1920 by 1080 because I made the box to fit to 16 by 9. And this one can just be Buttons head bob. Let's drop this. All right, so we have our animation here. I was gonna say I'm gonna drop the stuff in, but I should touch on this. This is our animation cells on the bottom. First thing I'm going to do is make a folder, a new folder, delete the original layer, and then call this folder 1. Because this frame down here at the bottom, labeled 1, is set to whatever is labeled 1. It is just gonna take on, like it's gonna, anything labeled 1 will show up because this frame is labeled 1. So this folder is labeled 1, so I can drop all these other layers into it and they're all part of 1, frame 1. And I can just stretch this to fit to these blue lines because those are the edges of our animation. It's got this padding out here just in case. We can get rid of the box, and here we are. We have our, I'll rename this to sketch. It's red. We don't need the box, we can get rid of that. I'll go ahead and save. Okay, we can begin. So, I'm gonna rewrite that note that I just erased on a new animation layer. This is just, this animation layer is just gonna be for notes. Good to have notes. So I wrote his head is gonna bob, so I figure it can go forward a bit and then come back. These are arcs, these are our arcs. So he'll kind of go like forward and then kind of reset. And there isn't much to arc here except for like his head. His head is gonna be the main thing. And the first thing we want to do is update this sketch. I'm going to make another layer for these updates. So one of those updates is gonna be headphones, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, well, we need to design him some headphones. Can generally do something like this. They're gonna look like earmuffs at first until we give them, you know, make them actually look like headphones. I'm guessing he'll be doing this kind of thing right here. Maybe, there we go. And then his little hairs can, maybe one can be going in front and the other be behind. And we won't see these parts of his ears. But yeah, we should be able to do that. That should work. All right. This is usually the part where we need to add in details, or I like to add in details now, like go ahead and refine this, because when we make whatever the next keyframe is of the animation, it's gonna be based on the first one. And we wouldn't wanna like be forgetting details and have to go and add everything in later. And so like if I don't draw whatever detail is gonna be on his headphones now, and end up making another frame later, like I drew that on the wrong layer. Oopsies. If I end up making a like frame at some point later, and I forget this like detail, I have to like go and add it in, and yeah. So we're gonna detail everything here first, and then go back. And thankfully, there isn't much here to do, but this is part of my animation process. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the detail should be here. You can see maybe the tops or the bottom of his top teeth. Ought to be like drooling here, maybe. Like, you know, really absorbed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. We don't need to do a whole lot of detail. Like the more detail, then the harder the animation's going to be in the end. So we just want enough. Get his little hairs. Simple shapes. This is actually in the 12 principles of animation that I learned from a YouTube video series someone made. They didn't make the 12 principles. They were just kind of reciting them they got them from somewhere. And they talk about the whole thing of you might have your canonical character with all the detail they have to them and everything that you might draw in your normal art. But when it comes to animation, it'd be hard to animate all that little detail stuff, so you like reduce it. It's easy enough for me because my characters don't have a lot of detail to begin with because I draw cartoons. Okay, and it's about done. Now, I'm on a different layer, and this one, you can see the original layer because I have onion skin turned on. You can kind of turn it on and off. You can't affect the thing that you see in blue. You can only make new things on this layer. So, one of the things I like to do for making another frame is I will like trace over this, like the onion skin. And once I have the thing that is going to move, like that's going to be his head, not the body, I will move this slightly. I'll kind of move it over and down, and also like change the rotation of it a little bit because his head will have bobbed and changed angle. The hairs will probably move. They are going to trail behind the body maybe slightly. It depends on how stiff the hairs are, but they're not going to be super stiff. So they will move a little bit independently. Actually, I want to be careful about that. I almost said screw it and just left the lines going over like that, not connecting exactly, and more things like that I let slide, then the sloppier it'll look in the end, because it'll look like the thing's sliding around on the headphones. You can see now why like less detail is great. Cool. And I'm gonna grab this and move it over, down, rotate, and we'll kind of, yeah, and the body will not have moved much. Maybe the neck slightly, but you can kind of just trace the bot. And we can kind of pop back and forth And it looks really stiff because there's only there are only 2 frames. But these are going to be like his starting position, and this is going to be him at the extreme of depth whenever his head bobs forward. It's gone forward, it's down. Let's see. And because the angle of his head from here is like pointing up this way from between his eyes to now pointing that way, the angle of his head's changed a bit, so we can kind of move elements like his nose and mouth down a little bit. Because like the more he looks down, you think about a cat's like nose having a bridge. Like the more down he looks, the more of that nose bridge you're gonna see. Like more distance between the eyes and the nose. I'm almost tempted to say, like, I don't even know if I should draw the hairs just yet, but I will leave the indication of where the hair begins. And the reason I'm doing this is because generally I've had better success animating things that have that trail behind the main body, like hairs and tails and stuff, like frame by frame, starting from the beginning. So you can like kind of follow its natural path, like as the main body affects it. So I'll probably omit those for now.
Would you put those on a different layer?
They could go in a different layer. I haven't tried that. I usually try to keep it simplified to fewer layers. I also just noticed I forgot this bit right here over on this layer. There's some overlap right there that I need to get. But yeah, it's totally, you could put them on a different layer if you wanted. That might make it easier. That's something I could try at some point. Maybe for the other things in this, I'll try that. I guess for now, I'm just showcasing my process as it currently is. Then I figure there will be like 2, maybe 3 frames in between this one and this one. Also, his eyes need to be a little thicker to match that first frame. Yeah. I'll just do 2 for now. I'll put 1 here and 1 here. Actually, I'm not going to make that one, and I'll show you why. When I have onion skin on, it sees the layer in front and behind. So when I'm on this layer, I only see the one behind, but I can't see the one in front because, or like the other keyframe we made, because there's another layer in between. So if I get rid of that extra layer, now we can see both. We see the one in front and the one behind. So I'm gonna do this first and then make the other one. Now with this one, I'm going to make it look closer to the original drawing rather than the new one. It's gonna be pretty similar, just slightly offset, because his head will have started the bob movement. It's just like starting to lurch forward, just starting. And you can just pretty much trace the original drawing and then move things slightly. I'm redrawing all of this, you know, like the lines by hand and stuff, and it's, in the end, it will make it look nicer. At least that's been my experience. It'll look nicer than if you just copied and pasted. Although some people are, you know, like they're not me. Like they can copy and paste things and it looks like just fine. But in my experience, I just kind of prefer going over the drawing again. It ends up looking more organic. As long as things are not like weirdly sliding around, like falling out of place and winding up somewhere they shouldn't. Like the eyes randomly getting spaced farther apart than expected. Stuff like that has happened to me. not gonna forget that this time. I can turn this off and we will grab the head and just move it slightly this way. Reconnect it to the bod. So now we have, we're gonna draw a connection between this one and this one where his head's down. He almost looks sad here. And this one can be like, you take the position and everything of stuff in the drawing, and you can just draw whatever it is that, like right in between. Like see, this eye is here, this eye is here. We can go right in the middle. Calculate like the middle. Nose right in the middle. Get right in between these two. Come to think of it, I could have traced and then moved it again. But this is a good technique, I think. I've had success with it, at least I feel. If you're enjoying Artist Hour at the Clawfee House, sign our guest book in the comments. The Clawfee House staff love hearing from you. I think one of the reasons that that technique is useful is because we move things around. We didn't just, on this frame, we actually moved the nose and the mouth down a little bit, like different from the rest of the head. It changed position. So this kind of gets that in between. There we go. So now you can see it in motion. And the timing can be changed here. I can make it go slower if I want. I'm really just doing this manually, like I'm dragging along the timeline. So it went down. We got our first arc. If I go back here and turn this on, that's our top arc right there. Now we need to have it come back around. It settles and sort of resets gently. At least that's what it's going to be here. So we need to know how to do that. And the way we can do that is I can go to some frame farther ahead and click this button with like a chain link on it. Assign cell to frame. This pops up. Select layer. So remember first layer that we started with 1? Do that, hit OK, and it creates like a copy on the timeline of it. Only it's not a copy, it's actually just a reflection. Like I could draw on this new, not really new, but this other 1 layer, and it will show up on this 1 layer as well. Everything named 1 will show up the exact same way. Every single cell that's labeled 1. And it works the same for all the cells. The reason I did that is because now we can see it if we make a new frame after 2. We can see this. We can see 2, 2, 1. 2 is now in the blue and 1 is now in green. So I can draw wherever the frame should look like in between these two. And I probably will do it like closer to the blue and not the green, and then the next one will be like between those blue and green. And then it will have reset back to 1. So we'll start with this one. What I'm actually gonna do here is draw over the blue for his head and then translate it a little bit back this way. When I say translate, I mean just like move it, like literally like this. I don't know where I picked that up from, calling it translate. There might be a more ubiquitous term for that. Actually, I'm not gonna draw the neck yet. The neck will connect it to wherever I move it. Over the blue. Yes. And then once all these frames are done, again, we'll go back and do the hair. Cool. Here we go. We can grab this, and I'll just move it back. It's gonna start settling. Oh yeah. Anyway. He's getting funky. Okay. And only one more frame. And I'll make it right here, turn onion skin back on. And I think what I'll do for this one is I'll trace over the green and then just move that one. Because the green is to represent frame 1, where the mouth and the nose haven't moved. Down the face. And then I'll just end up sliding this one over to fit in between the frames. This one's a little awkward. It's kind of hard to see. I think I got it. There we go, the head is drawn. And now we can just move this to fit right in between the green and blue. Actually, I think it's rotated a little bit too much. We're gonna We're gonna angle it a little bit more like that. I'm gonna drag this blue bar along the timeline, which is the end of our animation, over to here. So whenever I hit play, it'll stop right there and then go back to the start. So we should get some kind of loop now if I hit play. I forgot to draw his neck right here. Let's fix that. Frame 1 really stands out because of all the dark lines and the blush popping up and then disappearing, but those can be added. That can be fixed as we go. Usually what I'll do after this point, once it looks good and it's the right speed and everything I'm going for, I can go in and add the hairs, any lines and stuff that are missing, the blush or like red on the face, and then I can darken the lines to kind of match the first frame. And I do want the lines to be darker, so that way when I color it, the color under the lines doesn't show up under the edges of the lines as much. I want the lines to sort of dictate, like, you know, this is a separation of colors. All right?
Yeah.
We're gonna keep going. All right. Let's see. We can change the speed later if we need to. So I'm just gonna say this looks fine enough to me right now. So let's see, the way the hairs will go, when he reaches the lowest point, after that lowest point, the hairs will try to follow through where the head was, like a frame ago. They drag behind a little bit. So the base of the hair on the first frame is like right here. So it's gonna move over slightly because the head moved over. So it's gonna be here now probably. And the top of it is not gonna be, it's not gonna go parallel to the original because it should be dragging behind a little bit. So it actually might line up here. And this one is going behind a little bit as well. Remember, the base moves over a little bit. I don't want to move too much. Head moves back a little bit. Maybe it goes right about there. I'm actually not sure how this goes, or how it should go. We'll see what it does now. Yeah. That back one kind of slides around a bit too much for me. Let's see, between our first two frames, I think it should actually move over a little bit. Yeah. That'll look better. This needs to move over as well. It's changing length a little bit too much. I like the curl, so I want to keep the curl, or the length for that curl. So I'm gonna make them all a little bit longer, some more than others. Yeah, I really shortened it out. Didn't mean to. It almost feels like it's moving independently, like actually the opposite way I want it to go. Gonna angle it and move it over. Might seem like a lot of trouble to go through for one hair, but I want it to work. I gotta make it work. It almost feels like it's trying to stretch just to keep length. We don't want that. Feels unnatural. You know what? I don't even know if it needs to change shape that much. I am gonna try something. And that something is I'm going to just draw this, like trace it, and then just move it. Okay, how's that look? Yeah, it's better. I was overcomplicating it. I didn't need to do all that. I was changing the arc of it to be like this or this, like straighten out, but there's not that much movement, so it shouldn't straighten out or change that much. That's looking good. We can now go over these and just, I'll grab this red color. It's the same red color I used for the reds before, and we can just kind of slap that on top. All these folders have a red layer because every time I hit new animation cell down here, it copies the other folders or the other ways that like the layers are set up, and each layer is actually, or each animation cell here is a folder with multiple layers in it, including the red folder or layer for reds, like the red face. There's just nothing on the layer. It has the same name, same name and all, but I gotta fix this. It's missing from its cheeks. Good enough. If you know, you know. It'll be our little secret. So no telling our secrets in the comments.